Now, we should bash Arnold Schwarzenegger, but why are we letting off people who claim they're our allies and really voted in a way that's very adversarial, in the way that you were talking about? So I really want to stress to all of you, as we talk and try to identify our allies and adversaries, look at the action. Sometimes a person will be our adversary because of a certain action they took or a certain thing they're going to vote on. Sometimes an ally might be an adversary sometimes too. And so we have to really watch what a person does, as much as we have to hold ourselves accountable too. What do? Are we being true to ourselves and being true to people's rights all the time? Are we all that good all the time? Every one of you in this room? Because I plan to go up to that reception to win that raffle. I mean, and if I have to cheat, I will cheat. I mean, I passed the background check, but I will win that raffle, okay? I'm sorry, but I have to win that raffle. I just don't know why, but. So does everyone understand what I'm saying now? It's not that we're talking about enemies. And if you're a Democrat, and I was a Democratic staffer in the Assembly, and I was, you can be very partisan if you want. You can say I'm for this person. But in terms of your role here as advocates and identifying an ally or an adversary, you really have to remove the person and the party from that and hold the person or the organization accountable. And if they're not true, if they're not doing the right thing, then they're doing something that's adversarial to your child or to your family or to you as a worker or to you as a person receiving services. Remember, that's Ruth Shelton. Some of you know her. She's from Sacramento. She had IHSS. Francis, you knew Ruth. She was in an institution for most of her life, and then she was back in 1980, I think 1985 or so, 1985, she moved out of the nursing home, out of the developmental center, and lived independently until she passed away earlier this year. And look at that picture of Ruth. And she was an artist. She drew her paintings with the brush there on her head. And just look at her. And if a person or a legislature approves something that takes away hours or services that she desperately needs, and the person's a Democrat, was that action adversarial to Ruth? Now, you already automatically assume that a Republican's going to do that, so like, right? But we got to be careful too, because there may be Republicans in this room, and not all. We got to realize that people can do the right thing and people can do the wrong thing, no matter what their party is. And we don't. Our community includes both parties. Actually, there's a lot more than Republicans and Democrats. There's Libertarians and Green Party members. I'm sure there's. You're from Northern California. You're probably a Libertarian. So, I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. Right. You're a member of the Weed Party. So, it's really important now that how we identify our friends and allies. Now, we do have allies. Allies can be taken two ways. Allies could be a noun. You can identify an organization as an ally. SEIU, UDW. Am I forgetting a union? I'm forgetting a union.
UHWUD.
You got to say it louder. Yeah. And there's another union, but I won't mention the names right now. But I'm just saying, we would assume that would fall in the definition of ally, wouldn't we? What other groups? And why would we say that though? There are groups or entities or individuals that would naturally fall under the word that we would say they are our ally, that their actions, like a Democratic legislator or a Republican legislator might act in a way or vote on a bill, and therefore, in that instance, they are our ally. But would you call a legislator our ally all the time? No, and you shouldn't. And it's no disrespect. For instance, Mariko Yamada, an assemblywoman from Yolo County, is my friend. She really is my friend, and she's a friend of a lot of people in this room. She has been a strong supporter of IHSS. I'm a friend of Mariko Yamada, but when she's acting as a legislator, she's not my friend. She's a legislator, and I will hold her accountable for that. And there's a few times when most of the time she's actually voted very courageously. There's one or two times where I question some of her votes. And that's my role as an advocate. But I'm just saying, she is a friend, and outside the role of a legislator, she might be an ally. In a role of a legislator, that's not their role to be an ally to us. And if any of you think that, you're sadly mistaken. Or actually, if any of you think that, stand up and get the mic. No? Okay. What about the unions then? We have some union members here. Yeah, they're naturally our allies, and because of the role they play. What about the family members or actually individual people who receive research services here? I mean, identify other allies. I mean, Jamie, I mean, you actually come from a community that's pretty connected, actually.
Sega?
Well, no, San Jose.
Santa Clara? As far as the advisory committee, or?
Well, connected with other groups.
Oh, okay. Santa Clara, we have Parents Helping Parents are our allies.
Right, very, very good.
Hope Services are our allies. San Andreas Regional Center are our allies. Catholic Charities are our allies.
Yes.
All those groups that share the common consumer base.
She's actually named a lot of groups where in some other counties there may not be that type of relationship. There's other groups. There's the area agencies on aging, the area boards on developmental disabilities. There's one in every area of the state. Regional centers, which you mentioned, are the 21 nonprofit regional centers under contract under the Department of Developmental Services to provide or coordinate services for over 240,000 children and adults with developmental disabilities. They also are the lead agency that coordinates services for Early Start for people with thousands of babies who have developmental delays, regardless of whether or not it's a developmental disability. They may have a physical disability later on in life, but they are the lead agency in charge of Early Start, early intervention. And you know, again, that's another reason why we should partner, or they would be a logical ally. Some other ones. All of you come from areas that may have regional, like a public transit system. Some of you have a paratransit system. I'm on the board. I was the board president. I got off real quick when they were making cuts, but that is a partnership or an ally that could be part of something that we would reach to. There's also the counties and the cities have disability or senior or mental health advisory commissions or committees. Have any of you connected with those groups? Probably, I think you probably have in Santa Clara. Special education. Has anybody connected, or would it think of a special education parent groups or family groups, or SELPAs, which are kind of controversial with some of the families who don't like SELPAs. Now, I'm using an acronym, which normally I don't. Does everyone know what a SELPA is? No. But you should. Special Education Local Area Plan, and it's a combination of some parents and local school districts to kind of look at, I'm just doing a really rough explanation of what that entity does. The problem is a lot of the families don't think that the SELPAs, these entities, really serve the families in the best way possible. The SELPAs would argue differently. Doesn't that sound familiar? I mean, in terms of, there's always people from one side that will say that the other side is not doing what they need to do. You hear that with consumers of IHSS about the public authorities. You'll hear that of people who receive services in the regional center system about the regional centers. You'll hear that about people in Medi-Cal who complain about the counties and the county social workers. So that kind of thing happens. Home health agencies, there's individual providers like home health agencies, adult day health centers. And you mentioned one, Jamie, the Hope, which is actually a big provider in the San Jose area. And can't forget independent living centers. Does everyone connect in this room? You're all on advisory committees. You all connect with an independent living centers. Now, yeah. Some of them vary in strength and quality. I'm sure you would say yours is the best or whatever. Is there anybody here who doesn't know what an independent living center is? Does everyone connect with one? Would you view them as your ally?
Yes.
Which I didn't say they were necessarily, we're saying every one of these entities are good allies. That's a separate issue. What about Chamber of Commerce's or law enforcement agencies or groups like that, or local chapters of the Grey Panthers or the Older Women's League? or other senior groups. Now, Francis, do you have any?
Older Women's League is a stakeholder with in-home supportive services, a group that tends to be middle-class older women, but very interested perhaps in building out that service someday, which seems to be part of the future when we get past these budget deficits. So, yeah, there's lots of, and of course everybody has a senior center in their city.
And what about mental health services? Would all of you in this room identify them? For instance, the Mental Health Services Act, every county has a commission or a committee. Have we identified them as our? And I'm not talking about the quality of every one of these agencies or entities, because that will vary.
I can't say enough about the mental health services. They cut a bunch of stuff, but the professionals are working 24 hours a day to keep all the people in line.
You mean the committee itself, or the governor?
Oh, the committee itself, not the governor.
That actually raises a question. When the idea of allies coming together, and it's not necessarily you come together in a room like this, but how would you bring your allies together? You know, you can say, oh, I'm an ally with the Gray Panthers, or I'm an ally with the mental health groups, and just say it. You know, sort of like saying that at a family reunion, that, you know, we all love each other in the family reunion, and you know that as soon as they turn their back, you're going to be talking about them, but, you know, because Thanksgiving is coming up, so. How do you bring people together in your community? I mean, we've now identified as different groups, but how do you bring them together? How do you truly connect them, and so that when we need each other, like when the governor was going to propose eliminating in-home supportive services virtually, all but maybe the last 10% of people who receive services, how do we go to our community, to our allies, and say, we need your help?
Well, in Santa Clara County, we had a town hall meeting, and we invited all those organizations and agencies to come on board to support it with us, to do it in conjunction with us, so all their names are a part of the organizing group. Also, I'd like to say another ally that I think we all forget are the colleges and universities and the community colleges, the Disabled Students Program. And we really have to outreach to our young folks. That's absolutely huge. So
it's really veterans too, by the way, veterans
yes.
with disabilities. The Disabled Students Program, for instance, is called a categorical program under the community college system, and it was hit with a big cut a year ago, the year before, and I wrote about it. Let me explain one thing that you all could do that might help connect people, so it's not just on a crisis that you're calling them. Because you can't, it's not really fair. I don't know if we're really calling it, if it's really the function of an ally that only when you need them, you call them. And we're kind of viewing it one way. We will call you when we need you, don't call us. And what we need to really do is a fair exchange of information, so that when there's a cut or there's an issue, we cover it. We might even explain it to the Gray Panthers why this is going to impact you. Or if they have a reduction or a situation, make them explain it to us, make them explain it to your committees, how it will impact people receiving IHSS or people in your own group that you're aware of. I do that every time when I write my CD-CAN reports. I don't know if everybody gets it. What I do is I pull issues down. Now, if you look at this week alone, I covered like a wide range of issues: medical optional benefits, mental health services, the optional benefits, the in-home supportive services. I mean, I covered different issues back and forth, and I explained how it relates to our community. I mentioned the cut to CalWORKS. CalWORKS, does everyone know what CalWORKS is? It's Welfare to Work. It's the Welfare to Work program. Does everyone know what Stage 3 child care is? That's a subset of the CalWORKS program, but it's for parents, primarily women, who have been out of the program or not receiving CalWORKS for about, I think it's about 2 years.